The morning air tasted like metal and death. Dr. Lee Hanna pulled her breathing mask tighter as she walked through what had once been the Amazon rainforest. Now it was just red dirt and broken concrete. The alien mining machines had left deep scars in the earth. Nothing green grew here anymore. Hanna carried her medical kit and scanner as she searched for signs of life. Her boots crunched on dried leaves from trees that had died years ago. The Galactic Trade Consortium had promised to preserve Earth's wildlife when they arrived 50 years ago. They had lied about everything. She stopped when her scanner beeped. Something large was moving ahead. Something alive. Hanna pushed through a pile of dead branches and found him. The Saber-Tooth cat lay on his side, breathing hard. His dark fur was matted with blood. Silver streaks ran along his massive shoulders like lightning. One of his famous long teeth was cracked. His yellow eyes looked at her with the tired wisdom of something that had seen too much death. "Oh no," Hanna whispered. She had been looking for him for 3 months. Everyone said he was the last one. The last saber-tooth cat on Earth. The great cat tried to lift his head but fell back down. A deep cut ran across his ribs. Infection had set in. Without help, he would die within hours. Hanna looked around. No one else was here. The nearest consortium checkpoint was 5 miles away. She could call for help, but they would just put the cat down. Administrator Vex Prime had made it clear that all non-productive biological assets were to be eliminated. She opened her medical kit. Her hands shook as she pulled out antiseptic and bandages. These supplies were meant for humans only. Using them on an animal was against consortium rules, but she could not watch this magnificent creature die. "Easy, boy," she said softly. "I am going to help you." The saber-tooth's ears twitched. His eyes followed her movements. Most wild animals would try to bite or run when hurt. This one just watched her with calm intelligence. Hanna cleaned the wound carefully. The cat flinched but did not try to attack. She could feel his muscles tense under her hands. He was still incredibly strong, even wounded. One swipe of his paw could kill her instantly. "What should I call you?" she asked as she worked. The sound of her voice seemed to calm him. "You look like winter snow with those silver marks. I will call you Beck." The cat's breathing grew steadier as she bandaged his wounds. She gave him water from her canteen and pain medicine from her emergency supplies. Beck drank gratefully, his rough tongue lapping at the metal cup. By afternoon, Beck was sitting up. His wound had stopped bleeding. The medicine was working better than Hanna had hoped. She sat beside him and shared her lunch rations. The cat ate the protein bars slowly, as if he understood how precious food had become. "Dr. Lee?" a voice called from behind her. Hanna spun around. Kim Tae, her research partner, stood at the edge of the clearing. His face was pale with shock. "Tae, I can explain," Hanna started. "Are you insane?" Tae moved closer, keeping his eyes on Beck. "That thing could kill you, and using medical supplies on it? You know what the consortium will do if they find out." Beck growled low in his throat. The sound rumbled like distant thunder. But he did not move to attack. He seemed to understand that Tai was a friend. "Look at him, Tae," Hanna said. "He is not just an animal. There is something special about him. Something the consortium does not understand." Tae shook his head. "Special or not, he is still a predator, and you are still breaking the law. Administrator Vex Prime already suspects you of helping the resistance. This will give him the excuse he needs to arrest you." Hanna knew Tae was right. Vex Prime had been watching her for months. The alien administrator hated humans who showed too much independence. He especially hated humans who cared about Earth's dying ecosystem. "I cannot just let him die," Hanna said. "When everything else is gone, when all the forests are cut down and all the rivers are poisoned, what will we have left? What makes us human if we stop caring about other living things?" Beck stood up slowly. He was enormous, nearly 4 feet tall at the shoulder. His muscles moved like liquid under his fur. The ancient predator looked at both humans with eyes that seemed almost sad. "He understands," Hanna whispered. "Look at his eyes. He knows what has happened to the world." Over the next week, Hanna visited Bayek every day. She brought him food from her own rations and fresh water from the settlement. His wounds healed faster than should have been possible. Soon he was walking without pain. His strength was returning, but each visit was dangerous. Consortium patrols were increasing in the area. Administrator Vex Prime had announced new policies about unauthorized contact with wildlife. Anyone caught helping animals would face immediate deportation to the prison colonies. "You have to stop," Tay warned her. "Park Jin told me that Consortium Security asked about you yesterday. They know you are coming out here." Hana knelt beside Bayek and scratched behind his ears. The great cat purred like a giant house cat. The sound was comforting in the dead landscape. "I have been thinking," she said, "about the old stories. Before the consortium came, before the mining started, scientists found evidence that some animals were genetically enhanced during humanity's golden age. What if Bayek is not just the last Saber-Tooth? What if he is something more?" Tay looked at the cat's intelligent eyes and shivered. "Even if that is true, it does not matter now. Vex Prime has ordered all remaining large predators to be eliminated. He says they are a threat. No mining operations." The next morning, Hana arrived to find consortium vehicles surrounding the clearing. Administrator Vex Prime stood waiting for her, his blue skin gleaming in the harsh sunlight. His 4 arms were crossed in a gesture of supreme authority. "Dr. Lee Hana." His voice was like grinding metal. "You are under arrest for violation of Resource Management Protocol 7, unauthorized aid to prohibited biological entities." Bayek was nowhere to be seen. He had vanished into the wasteland like a ghost made of shadow and silver. As the consortium, soldiers put restraints on her wrists, Hana smiled. At least he was free. But freedom in a poisoned world might be just another kind of death sentence. 3 months had passed since Administrator Vex Prime arrested Hana in the dead forest. The consortium had released her with a warning, but she was now marked as a troublemaker. They watched her every move. Hana returned to her small laboratory in the human settlement. The building was made of recycled metal sheets and powered by a single solar panel. She spent her days testing soil samples and cataloging the few insects that still survived in the wasteland. But every night, she thought about Bayek. Kim Tae brought her reports from the outer zones. Mining teams had seen large tracks in the red dirt. Security cameras caught glimpses of something moving in the shadows. The consortium insisted it was just sensor errors, but Hana knew better. Beck was alive. On a cold Tuesday evening, Hana heard scratching at her laboratory door. She opened it carefully and gasped. Beck stood in the doorway, his silver streaked, fur gleaming in the lamplight. He had grown larger and stronger. His eyes held a new intelligence that made her heart race. "You came back," she whispered. Beck walked into the lab like he owned it. He sniffed at her equipment and examined the charts on her walls. His behavior was not like any wild animal Hana had ever seen. He moved with purpose, as if he understood what everything was for. Hana closed the door quickly and pulled the curtain shut. If anyone saw Bake here, they would both be in terrible danger. "You cannot stay long," she told him. "But I am so glad. You are safe." She gave him water and the last of her protein rations. Bake ate slowly, his eyes never leaving her face. When he finished, he did something that shocked her. He walked to her computer terminal and pawed at the keyboard. Numbers appeared on the screen. "Coordinates." "What are you trying to tell me?" Hana asked. Beck touched the screen with his nose, then looked at her. He was trying to communicate something important. Hana studied the coordinates. They pointed to a location deep in the wasteland, where the mining had been heaviest. Nothing could survive there. The ground was poisoned with chemicals and radiation. "You want me to go there?" she asked. Beck made a soft rumbling sound and nodded his massive head. The next morning, Hana told Tai she needed to collect samples from the dead zone. It was dangerous work that required special equipment. She would be gone for 3 days. "I do not like this," Tai said. "The consortium has been asking questions about you again." Park Jin heard them talking about increased surveillance. Park Jin was their friend who worked in the communications center. He often overheard consortium plans and warned the humans when trouble was coming. "I will be careful," Hana promised. She packed her radiation detector and protective gear. But instead of going to the coordinates alone, she waited until dark. Beck appeared at the edge of the settlement like a ghost. Together, they walked into the wasteland. The journey took 2 days. Beck led her through paths that avoided the worst contamination. He seemed to know exactly where the radiation was strongest and where it was safe to rest. Without him, Hana would have died within hours. On the second evening, they reached the coordinates. Hana expected to find empty wasteland, but instead discovered something impossible. Hidden behind rocks and dead trees was an entrance to an underground cave system. Beck disappeared into the darkness. Hana followed, her flashlight beam dancing on the cave walls. What she found inside changed everything she thought she knew about Earth's history. The cave was not natural. It was a laboratory built during humanity's golden age before the consortium arrived. Equipment lined the walls, still powered by fusion cells that glowed with soft blue light. And in chambers carved, from living rock she found them, more saber-tooth cats. 7 of them, all in suspended animation. Their bodies were larger than normal cats, enhanced with genetic modifications that made them stronger, smarter, and immune to radiation. Ancient computer files revealed the truth. These were not just animals. They were guardians, created to protect Earth's ecosystem when humanity could not. Beck walked to one of the chambers and placed his paw on the control panel. The chamber opened with a hiss of escaping gas. A female cat emerged, her fur pure white with silver stripes. She was beautiful and deadly, with eyes like winter ice. "You were never the last one," Hana whispered. "You were the first to wake up." Over. The following weeks, Hana visited the hidden laboratory every few days. The awakened cats were adapting to the new world quickly. Their enhanced genetics let them survive in the poisoned environment that killed normal animals. But more importantly, they were learning. They watched Hana work with the ancient computers. They studied maps of consortium facilities. They seemed to understand that humans were not their enemies, but their partners in a war for Earth's survival. Park Jin brought disturbing news from the communications center. Administrator Vex Prime had received orders from the Consortium High Command. All remaining Earth predators were to be eliminated immediately, no exceptions. "They are planning something called Operation Clean Sweep," Park Jin whispered during a secret meeting. "Every animal larger than a rat will be poisoned or shot. They want to make Earth completely safe for industrial development." Hana felt sick. The consortium was not content with destroying the forests and polluting the air. They wanted to eliminate every trace of Earth's natural heritage. That night, she made a decision that would change everything. She led Bayek and his awakened companion to the edge of the human settlement. The 2 great cats stood in the darkness, their eyes reflecting the distant lights of consortium facilities. "You have to go now," Hana told them. "Hide in the deep wasteland where they cannot find you. Take the others from the laboratory. Keep them safe." Bake approached her and rested his massive head against her shoulder. The gesture was gentle, almost human in its tenderness. But when he pulled away, Hana saw something new in his eyes. Not just intelligence. Not just understanding. Anger. The saber-tooth cats melted back into the darkness like living shadows. Hana watched them go and felt a strange mixture of sadness and hope. She had saved them, but she had also set something in motion that she did not fully understand. In the distance, consortium security lights swept across the wasteland, searching for threats they could not imagine. The hunt was about to begin, but the predators were no longer the prey. The consortium security forces came at dawn. Hana woke to the sound of heavy boots outside her laboratory. Through her window, she saw Administrator Vex Prime leading a squad of armed soldiers. His forearms gestured impatiently as he spoke into his communication device. "Dr. Lee Hana," his metallic voice boomed. "By order of the Galactic Trade Consortium, you are under arrest for acts of sabotage against colonial operations." Hana's heart pounded. She had been careful. She had not sabotaged anything. But Vex Prime did not need real evidence to make trouble for humans. The soldiers burst through her door. They wore full battle armor and carried energy weapons. One of them pointed a scanner at her and nodded to Vex Prime. Traces of unauthorized biological contact confirmed, the soldier reported. Subject has been in close proximity to prohibited life forms within the past 48 hours. Vex Prime's blue face twisted into what might have been a smile. Take her to the detention center. Prepare for enhanced interrogation procedures. They dragged Hana from her laboratory and threw her into an armored transport vehicle. Through the small window, she saw her neighbors watching in fear. Kim Tae stood in his doorway, his face pale with worry. Park Jin was nowhere to be seen. The detention center was a gray concrete building at the heart of the consortium compound. They locked Hana in a small cell with no windows and a single dim light. The walls were metal, designed to block all communication, signals. For 3 days they left her alone with only water and thin soup. On the 4th day, Administrator Vex Prime came to visit. Dr. Hana, he said, settling his large frame on a chair across from her cell. You have been a problem since the day we arrived on your pathetic planet. Always asking questions. Always interfering with progress. I'm a scientist, Hana replied. I study life. That is not a crime. Everything is a crime if I say it is, Vex Prime laughed. But today you will be useful. Your fellow humans need to learn what happens to troublemakers. He activated a recording device. This message will be broadcast to every human settlement on Earth. They will see what rebellion costs. The interrogation began that afternoon. They did not use physical torture. Instead, they used psychological methods designed to break human minds. Loud sounds, flashing lights, and drugs that made thinking difficult. Hana tried to stay strong, but the treatment was wearing her down. She thought about Bake and the other cats hiding in the wasteland. At least they were safe. Meanwhile, in the EU, underground resistance headquarters, Dr. Choi Minho received the broadcast of Hana's interrogation. The hidden base was built in an old subway tunnel beneath the ruins of Seoul. 50 humans lived there, planning ways to fight back against the consortium. They are using her as an example, said Lee Soo, Minho's second-in-command. If we try to rescue her, we expose our entire operation. Minho watched the broadcast with anger burning in his chest. Hana was a good person who had helped many humans over the years, but saving one person might doom them all. We cannot risk the resistance for one individual, he decided. No matter how much we want to help her. The other rebels nodded, but nobody looked happy about it. Above ground, strange reports were coming in from consortium mining operations. Security teams were finding their equipment mysteriously damaged. Mining robots stopped working for no apparent reason. Supply convoys reported seeing large shadows moving in the wasteland. Commander Zek 9 arrived from consortium headquarters to investigate. He was a professional soldier from a warrior species that specialized in hunting dangerous creatures. His gray skin was covered in scars from 100 battles. Show me the evidence, he ordered the local security chief. They brought him video footage from the mining sites. The images were blurry and filled with static, but something large was definitely moving through the industrial areas at night. Probably just equipment malfunction, the security chief suggested. These human machines break down constantly. Zek 9 studied the footage more carefully. His trained eye caught details that others missed. The shadows moved with purpose. They avoided the cameras expertly. This was not random animal behavior. Double the guard patrols, he ordered. Install motion sensors around all critical facilities. Whatever is out there, we will catch it. That night, the first consortium soldier disappeared. Private Hex 7 was on routine patrol around Mining Station 12 when his communication signal went dead. His partner found his equipment scattered across the ground but no body. The energy weapon was missing its power cell, and the armor showed deep claw marks. 3 more soldiers vanished over the next week. Each time their equipment was found, but their bodies were gone completely. The surviving guards were becoming nervous and trigger-happy. Commander Zek 9 organized hunting parties with the best tracking equipment available. They found large paw prints in the poisoned soil, but the tracks always led to areas too contaminated for humans to follow safely. Sir, one of his lieutenants reported, the tracks show at least 4 different animals, maybe more. They are working together in coordinated attacks. Zek-9 felt a chill of recognition. He had fought pack hunters before on other worlds. They were the most dangerous kind of predator because they could think and plan like soldiers. Back at the detention center, Administrator Vex Prime was becoming frustrated. The interrogation was not breaking Hana as quickly as he had hoped. Worse, the missing soldiers were making him look weak in front of his superiors. "Increase the pressure," he ordered. "I want her to confess to everything. Animal collaboration, resistance activities, sabotage. Make her admit to crimes she never committed." But, even as he spoke, Vex Prime felt a growing unease. The security reports were becoming more disturbing each day. Mining production was falling behind schedule. His best soldiers were afraid to patrol alone. Something was hunting them in the wasteland. Something smart enough to avoid their technology, and patient enough to pick them off one by one. In her cell, Hana heard the worried conversations of her guards. Despite her own suffering, she felt a strange satisfaction. The consortium had always believed they were the top predators on Earth. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Late at night, when the detention center was quiet, Hana sometimes heard sounds in the distance. A low rumbling that might have been thunder, but the sky was always clear. She smiled in the darkness. Somewhere out there, ancient guardians were remembering what they were created to do. The hunt had begun. Beck moved through the poisoned wasteland like a ghost made of shadow and silver. The radiation that killed normal animals only made him stronger. His enhanced genetics turned the toxic environment into fuel for his ancient purpose. He was no longer just hunting for food. He was hunting for justice. The first target was Security Chief RAL-6, the alien who had laughed while dragging Hana from her laboratory. RAL-6 commanded Mining Station 7, where hundreds of robots stripped precious metals from the dead. Beck watched the station for 3 nights, learning the patrol patterns and guard rotations. His enhanced intelligence let him understand technology almost as well as any human. He saw the weak points in their defenses. On the 4th night, he struck. The security cameras went dark first. Beak had learned to disable them by watching human technicians work. He moved between the blind spots, his massive paws silent on the metal walkways. RAL-6 was alone in his command center, reviewing production reports. He never heard Beck enter. One moment he was complaining about lazy human workers. The next moment, powerful jaws closed around his throat. When the other guards found RAL-6 the next morning, his body was arranged in a specific pattern, ancient territorial markings that spoke of intelligence and purpose. His weapon and communication device were missing. Commander Zek-9 studied the crime scene with growing alarm. The attack showed planning and tactical thinking. This was not random animal behavior. "Double all security protocols," he ordered. "No one goes anywhere alone. Install backup power for all camera systems." But Beck was already planning his next move. The white female cat that Hana had named Seol joined him for the second hunt. Together, they stalked Administrator Vex Prime's personal assistant, a cruel alien named Tor-3, who had supervised Hana's interrogation sessions. Tor-3 traveled between facilities in an armored transport, but even the strongest vehicle had weaknesses. The cats waited at a narrow canyon where the road passed between high rock walls. Seol disabled the vehicle's engine with precise claw strikes to the power cables. When Tor-3 climbed out to investigate, Beck was waiting. The assistant's screams echoed through the canyon for exactly 37 seconds. His remains were found arranged in the same territorial pattern as RAL-6. The message was becoming clear to anyone smart enough to read it. Dr. Yang Sura was one of the few who understood what they were facing. She was a consortium scientist who studied predator behavior on dozens of worlds. Her research had taught her to recognize intelligence in non-human species. "These are not random attacks," she reported to Commander Zek-9. "The killer is selecting specific targets. All victims were directly involved in the arrest and interrogation of the human female." Zek-9's scarred face showed doubt. "You think an animal is capable of planning revenge?" "Not just any animal," Yang Sura replied. "These attack patterns, Match those of enhanced war beasts from the old galactic conflicts. Someone created these creatures to be living weapons. She showed him detailed analysis of the crime scenes. The claw marks were too precise. The territorial markings were too complex. The target selection was too specific. We are not dealing with normal predators, she concluded. These are engineered guardians, probably created by humans during their advanced technological period. Zek-9 felt a chill of recognition. He had fought enhanced creatures before. They were nearly impossible to kill and absolutely impossible to reason with. Meanwhile, more cats were awakening in the hidden laboratory. Each one that emerged from suspended animation was larger and more dangerous than normal saber-tooth cats. Their genetic modifications included enhanced healing, radiation immunity, and intelligence that bordered on human level. Beck led them through the wasteland, teaching them about the new world. They learned to recognize consortium vehicles and equipment. They memorized the locations of every facility and outpost. Most importantly, they learned to identify the aliens who had hurt their human friend. The hunt continued with methodical precision. Lieutenant Vex Minor, Administrator Vex Prime's nephew, disappeared from Communications Station 4. His body was found 3 days later, arranged in the familiar territorial pattern. His communication codes were missing. Sergeant Core 12 vanished from Supply Depot 9. Only his weapons and armor remained, placed in careful arrangements that spoke of ancient rituals. Chief Engineer Lock 5 was taken from Refinery Station 2. His technical manuals were gone, but his tools were left behind in symbolic patterns. Each disappearance followed the same pattern. The cats struck quickly and silently. They took what they needed and left the bodies as messages. The fear among consortium forces was becoming overwhelming. They are learning our procedures, Yang Sura warned. Each attack gives them more information about our operations. The missing communication codes and technical manuals are being used against us. Commander Zek-9 had deployed his best hunters and most advanced tracking equipment, but the cats were always one step ahead. They moved through areas too contaminated for normal pursuit. They struck from directions that should have been impossible. Sir, his lieutenant reported nervously, 12 more soldiers have requested transfer off-world. Morale is collapsing. The attacks were not just eliminating personnel. They were breaking the spirit of the entire occupation force. Soldiers jumped at shadows. Officers refused to travel without heavy escorts. Production at mining facilities dropped as workers spent more time watching for predators than actually working. Administrator Vex Prime was furious. The systematic elimination of his staff was making him look weak in front of Consortium High Command. Worse, the attacks seemed to be connected to the human female he was interrogating. Increase pressure on the prisoner, he ordered. Make her tell us everything she knows about these creatures. But Hana had been unconscious for 2 days. The enhanced interrogation techniques were finally breaking her human body, even though her spirit remained strong. In the wasteland, Beck felt her, pain through the bond they shared. His yellow eyes burned with rage that made the other cats step back in fear. The human who had saved his life was dying while he hunted her enemies. The time for careful planning was ending. Soon he would have to choose between continuing the systematic hunt and saving the one who mattered most. Yang Sura studied the latest attack reports and felt a growing certainty. The predators were not just seeking revenge, they were preparing for something much larger. Commander, she said quietly, I believe these creatures are building toward a final assault. All the equipment they have stolen, all the information they have gathered, it is not random. They are planning to rescue the human female. Zek-9 looked at the tactical displays showing consortium positions throughout the region. If the creatures coordinated a full attack, his forces might not be able to stop them. The hunt was about to become a war. The night before Hana's scheduled execution, the consortium detention center stood quiet under a poisoned sky. Administrator Vex Prime had announced that her death would be broadcast to every human settlement as a final warning about the cost of resistance. Inside her cell, Hana could barely lift her head. Weeks of interrogation had broken her body, but her spirit burned with quiet defiance. She thought about Beck and wondered if he was still alive in the wasteland. At least she had given him a chance to survive. At midnight, the power went out. Emergency. Lights flickered on, casting red shadows through the corridors. Commander Zek-9's voice echoed over the communication system, ordering all units to battle stations. Something was happening outside. The first explosion shook the building. Then, another, and another. Beck led 7 enhanced Saber-Tooth cats through the outer defenses like they were made of paper. Months of careful planning had taught them every weakness in the consortium's security. Stolen access codes opened locked doors. Captured weapons disabled defensive systems. But this was not just a rescue mission, this was a declaration of war. The cats moved through the facility with deadly precision. Each one had a specific target among the guards and administrators who had tormented Hana. They showed no mercy to those who had shown none to their human friend. Security Chief Drac 4 tried to seal himself in the command center, but Seal had already disabled the locking mechanisms. He died clutching a communication device, trying to call for help that would never come. Deputy Administrator Cole 8 barricaded himself in the armory, surrounded by the most powerful weapons in the facility. The thick metal door held for exactly 90 seconds before Beck's claws tore through it like cloth. Commander Zek-9 fought back with the skill of a professional warrior. His energy rifle fired pulse after pulse at the attacking predators, but their enhanced genetics made them faster than his targeting systems could track. When his ammunition ran out, he drew his ceremonial blade and prepared to die fighting. Beck faced him in the main corridor, yellow eyes burning with ancient fury. The warrior and the guardian circled each other while explosions echoed through the building. Zek-9 had fought enhanced creatures before, but never one with intelligence that matched his own tactical training. The battle lasted 3 minutes. When it ended, Commander Zek-9 lay still on the metal floor, his weapon shattered and his armor torn. Beck stood over him, breathing hard but victorious. In the central courtyard of the detention center, something remarkable happened. The cats began arranging their trophies in ancient ceremonial patterns. Bones and equipment from every consortium official who had participated in Hana's capture and torture were laid out in precise formations. The display sent a clear message to anyone who could read the old symbols. This is what happens to those who harm the pack. This is the price of cruelty. This is justice. Dr. Yang Sura had barricaded herself in her laboratory when the attack began. She was the only consortium scientist who truly understood what they were facing. As she watched the security feeds, she saw something that filled her with awe and terror. The Saber-Tooth cats were not just acting on instinct. They were following military tactics learned from studying human behavior. They had become something new, something that combined animal instincts with human intelligence and alien technology. Administrator Vex Prime tried to escape in his personal transport, but the cats had anticipated this. They had disabled every vehicle in the compound hours before the attack began. He found himself trapped in his office, watching his carefully built empire collapse around him. When Beck finally reached him, Vex Prime was sitting at his desk, staring at reports that would never be filed. His forearms trembled as the massive predator entered the room. "You are just an animal," Vex Prime whispered. "You cannot understand what you are destroying." Beck's response was a low growl that sounded almost like laughter. Then he showed Vex Prime exactly how much he understood. Deep in the detention center, Hana heard the sounds of battle growing closer. Her cell door exploded inward, and Bayek stood in the doorway like something from an ancient legend. His silver-streaked fur was stained with the blood of her enemies, but his eyes were gentle when they looked at her. "You came back," she whispered. Beck approached carefully and used his massive teeth to break her restraints. When she tried to stand, her legs gave out from weeks of abuse. The great cat lowered himself so she could climb onto his back. Together, they walked through corridors littered with the remains of the consortium occupation force. Other cats joined them, forming a protective circle around their injured human friend. They moved like a royal procession through the ruins of their enemy's power. Outside, the wasteland was no longer empty. Dozens of saber-tooth cats emerged from hidden caves and shelters across the poisoned landscape. Beck had never been the last of his kind. He had been their scout, their leader, their herald of a new age. The cats had spent months learning about the modern world while hiding in the deep places. Now they stood revealed, their enhanced genetics allowing them to thrive in an environment that killed weaker creatures. As dawn broke over the destroyed detention center, Dr. Yang Sura made a decision that would change everything. Instead of trying to escape, she approached the assembled cats with her hands raised in surrender. "I want to help," she called out. "I understand what you are, and I want to help you save this world." Beck studied her with ancient wisdom. He could smell her fear, but also her sincerity. This alien was different from the others. She saw them as more than just animals. Hana raised her head from Bayek's back and looked at Yang Sura. "You study predators," she said weakly. "Do you know what makes them most dangerous?" "Intelligence," Yang Sura replied, "and the bonds they form with their pack." "Then you understand." Hana smiled. "We are not just humans and cats anymore. We are family, and family protects each other." Word of the detention center's destruction spread quickly through human settlements. The consortium's grip on Earth began to weaken as humans realized they were not alone in their struggle. Other enhanced species were awakening from hidden laboratories across the planet. 6 months later, Hana established a new settlement deep in the wasteland, protected by her pack of guardian cats. The poisoned environment that had been meant to kill them instead became their fortress. Only they could survive there, making it the perfect place to plan Earth's liberation. The consortium still controlled the major cities and industrial centers, but their soldiers no longer patrolled alone. They had learned to fear the shadows, where ancient guardians waited with patient hunger. Beck stood on a hill overlooking the new settlement, his pack gathered around him. In the distance, human children played safely while their parents worked to rebuild what had been destroyed. The cats watched over them all, fulfilling the purpose they had been created for so long ago. The war for Earth was far from over, but the balance of power had shifted. Humanity was no longer alone, and their enemies had learned a hard truth about the bonds between species. Some things are worth fighting for, some things are worth dying for, and some things, when threatened, will hunt you to the ends of the galaxy and arrange your bones in patterns that warn others never to make the same mistake. The last Saber-Tooth on Earth had returned with the bones of her enemies, and the real fight was just beginning.